it is being reported that an American broadcaster has actually shown quite a lot of interest in having Premier League games actually played in the US. And this American broadcaster is none other than NBC. So it is being reported that one of the games they want to host is Manchester United versus Chelsea, and they want this one in New York. So obviously, if they're going to have Premier League games played in the US, they're going to want them in big cities to kind of like, so they can advertise it a lot more as well, plus get a lot of those fans in the game as well. So the Premier League chief executive Chris Masters has said it is not exactly a topic of discussion right now. So to be honest, I'm not sure if the Premier League just isn't interested, or if they've kind of just put it on the back shelf for now and might be thinking about it in the future. However, he has left the idea actually open, so I think that this really means the Premier League might be thinking about it, and they will probably look at their best options in the future for this actual idea. So ever since Lionel Messi went to Inter Miami, there has been really a huge growth of football in the USA, which isn't really a surprise, because when a player of his magnitude goes to another country, people are going to know who he is, and then they are going to go and watch his games. Plus, once there's a lot of attention on a particular sport, they will go and watch the biggest leagues as well. They won't just go and watch Messi. They'll go and watch like the Premier League. They'll probably watch La Liga and Serie A as well. So the viewing attendances from the US to those other leagues have probably gone up as well. And alongside this, a record 2.6 million people viewed the Man City versus Arsenal game, which unfortunately ended up in a 0-0 draw. So people were probably expecting more to happen, but unfortunately that didn't. So the NBC president of acquisitions and partnerships, John Miller, has actually said conversations have taken place for some games from the Premier League to be hosted in the USA. There wasn't much else really said about what was said in the conversations. Obviously no deal has come about yet, but we don't really know how far those conversations have actually gone. They might be in the early stages, they might just be, well, they're probably not trying to finalise a deal yet, otherwise that most likely would have been reported. However, NBC do have a £2 billion deal with the Premier League over 6 years to like show the games in the USA, and through this they want to increase the popularity of the sport, obviously, otherwise they wouldn't have taken the deal. Also, alongside this, it seems like from this report they do want to take advantage of this deal to potentially bring games to the USA, which would obviously make the sport as a whole more popular in the USA, because then more people would actually go to watch the games. Plus, it would probably get more people interested due to a lot of the clubs from the Premier League, especially the high-end clubs, being known not just in the USA but all over the world. So then that could create more fans as well. So a quote from Miller, which was said to The Athletic, goes, "We have had conversations with the Premier League and they've been very open and receptive to listening to me." So from that, the fact that Miller says the conversations have been open and the Premier League are willing to listen to him shows that there is an interest from the Premier League for this to actually happen, which I do find quite interesting, because the Premier League has always been one of those things where the games are actually played in England, which is where the Premier League is. However, there have been some comparisons made to the NFL, which obviously is in America, where they do have some international games where teams will go to different countries. Mainly the one is in England. I think they have 3 at minimum 2 games a year actually gone and played in England, and there have been other reports saying that the NFL is going to play games, I think, in France and Germany as well. So is the Premier League going to look to maybe do something like that as well with the US, like the NFL has done? I don't know. However, with all of this, the Premier League did actually do a summer series in pre-season in the USA. So they have been over to the USA, and from what I have heard and what I have seen from the reports, it was quite a successful pre-season tournament with the teams of Fulham, Aston Villa, Chelsea, Newcastle, Brighton and Brentford going over to participate in the tournament. So the Premier League has already sent teams over to the US. I know it was only a pre-season tournament, but that is really usually what they do to test kind of the popularity in other countries. Send some of the teams over for pre-season and really see how it is. So that could have been really the test to see how popular this would be in another country. However, there is a really big problem with this idea, because the Premier League has a 38 game season, plus you have the cups as well. You have the FA Cup, you have the League Cup. So teams going far on that is just going to add games to their schedule. Plus you have European competitions. And remember, a few years ago we had another European competition added. So really with all of this, there is a lot, and I mean a lot of travel that the teams have to do, especially when you're playing in Europe, because you have to go to different countries there as well. So this extra travel to go to the US would mean teams would have to really fly across the other side of the world just to play one game. And obviously with flying you get things like jet lag as well. So would it really be worth it for the players and really their health as well to go across the other side of the world, play one game and then come all the way back and potentially have to fly out to another European country midweek as well? Would all of that be worth it, and what toll would that take on the players? Because some of these players are playing 45-50 games a season, and a lot of those could be with them not just travelling inside the country but also travelling outside the country to other European countries as well. So really that is the biggest problem, because they already have a tight schedule, obviously playing 38 league games, possibly 6-7 cup games, and there's 2 cup competitions they could be in. Even though they will most likely not play all of the cup games, that's still going easily into the 40s with games being played, and then it could easily go into the 50s with the European games. So they already have a tight schedule, especially with the teams in Europe as well. And then they also, a lot of the time, have games on the weekend, plus, especially once again in Europe, they'll have a game midweek as well. And with all of these other cup and European games, they have to reschedule some of the league games, which are then also put in the midweek. So obviously for the players this really wouldn't be beneficial because of like the travel and the tight schedule. So really in conclusion, from what I have seen, this is not very popular among the fans, especially the Premier League fans from England. But also it seems like it seems like the US fans really understand that this is not the best idea, because a lot of them do say that this is an English thing, keep it in England, don't try and bring it out somewhere else, which I do understand. And really, I do think the Premier League should listen to the fans, especially if the fans in the USA are saying that they aren't fond of bringing other sports kind of out of their native country, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I do think the Premier League should listen, but if there's a lot of money in it, then we all know that the Premier League won't listen, they'll just listen to where the money is. And the other big issue would be that this would most likely just cause more injuries with the travelling and tight schedule that they already have, plus having to travel again across the other side of the world. It's not really going to give them the best time to recover as well. So more and more injuries is one thing that teams don't need, because there's quite a few injuries in the season as it is now. Then having players go across the other side of the world to America probably would make that issue a lot worse. And like I said, even the Americans aren't too keen on seeing it happen, because obviously they understand that this would be a lot to ask for the players. So those are my thoughts really on the Premier League sending teams to play in the US. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you liked the video, leave a like, and also if you did like the video, consider subscribing to the channel. Go and check out other videos on the channel as well. So yeah, leave your thoughts down in the comments, and thank you for listening, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.